What's up, Bulldogs? All right, today we're going to be talking about, or we're going to answer the age-old question of what does she bring to the table? What does a woman bring to the table? And I know you maybe didn't sign up for this because I'm doing mindset and philosophical content for men, transformational type of stuff. But I think this is important, right? And yeah, I've got the relationship podcast on Better Than Perfect, but I want to talk to you guys as men today and really help you to understand why this question is not actually even a valid question, because it is one that I struggled with myself for some time, especially as I learned a lot of the things maybe you have heard on the internet, on YouTube about the nature of women, and started to go down that journey myself. But this is a question that gets asked a lot. And I think in order to really answer this question, or in order to really understand why this question is not even a valid question, you have to really understand the masculine and the feminine. And I think this is something that there's a lot of confusion about today, right? I think most men don't really understand what true masculinity is. That's really kind of the goal of what I'm trying to teach you on this channel. And they don't understand femininity as well. And women don't really understand these things either, right? And so here's how we can really think about this. And this is, I think, the helpful way to think about a lot of the problems that we see in society today between men and women in fairness, right? This idea of fairness, which is that the masculine and the feminine together form a whole, not just a whole, the yin and the yang, but a synergistic whole that creates more than each counterpart on their own, right? And so I'll give you kind of an analogy. Right. So, and when I talk about synergy, what I mean by this is I mean that synergy means 1 + 1 = 3, or 1 + 1 = 4. It doesn't equal 2. You add the component parts, and when you put them together, they become a greater thing. Right. So here's the analogy that I'll give you in regards to this, which is that of a flame. Right. So as a man, you might say, oh, well, I'm going to build my flame. Right? And how do you build your flame? How do you build your fire? Well, you put a lot of logs on it, right? You do the work. You become financially successful. You go to the gym. You put in the hours. You develop your physique, right? You develop your social skills. You develop your mindset. You build a life for yourself, right? You become a stronger, better man. And through that, you have this flame that's burning, right? That's the output from your life, from these things that you've put into this, right? And then you've got a woman, right? And you see a woman, and today in society today, a lot of women, they want to have their own flames, right? Just like men have flames, they want to have their own flames. And not to say that women can't build a flame for herself, but it's not really the thing that she's really driven to do. The feminine is not really about building this flame, right? And so you have a woman, she builds her flame, and you get into a relationship with this woman, and you've got these two flames, right? And you want to add them together. But when you look at them, you're like, well, perhaps you say, I don't really see her flame it's not even very strong, right? I mean, what does she actually put in work to herself? Like, what has she done? Like, is she making a lot of money? Has she made these same kind of choices? She just kind of benefited from other people, and she didn't have to do anything, right? She was just beautiful. She was just attractive, and that's why she got a lot of things in life. But I had to work really hard to build this flame. And so I don't want to just give her this flame and have her benefit from my fire unless she's bringing something to the table. And so let me either help her boost her flame, or let's combine those flames and let's see what happens, right? And so you have this idea of, well, maybe things should be more equal. Maybe, what does she bring to the table? What kind of flame does she have, right? And you look at a woman in that respect. And what ends up happening is you combine these flames, you combine this strong flame with this weak flame, and it doesn't really change very much. Maybe you add these two flames together and you get a total heat index of 100. Okay, so it adds up to 100, right? Maybe yours is 70 and hers is 30, and it adds up to 100. Or yours is 90 and hers is 10. It adds up to 100. Okay. Now, instead of looking at things this way, the thing you have to understand is that building a flame was never a feminine attribute at all, right? So women are typically not as good at doing this. Not to say that women can't be successful in business and in these things in life. Of course, they can be, but it's just not the feminine, right? So women can be in their masculine and they can create their own flame. However, it is not what they're naturally built for. So then you might say, well, then what is it that they're naturally built for? And the answer is as a accelerant to a flame, right? So a woman is a fuel to a man's flame. The feminine is fuel for masculinity, right? The masculinity feeds off of the feminine. The feminine provides an energy source which makes the masculine's flame brighter, right? And you know this intrinsically because what happens when you're in love as a man, when you have a woman that wants you or desires you or that loves you, all of a sudden you can fly, right? Can you run faster? Can you work harder? Can you do things to a greater degree because you have this energy? You felt that energy before. And was it her flame that was contributing to your flame? No. What it was her acting as an accelerant, right? And so the right way to look at this is not to look at a man's flame versus a woman's flame, because if you look at that, then you say, what does she bring to the table? And the answer is not that much. I already have a flame. I'm already good, right? If you're a successful man, right? Maybe you've got a woman that's more successful than you, and then you don't have to ask the question, what does she bring to the table, right? And so a lot of guys get reduced to this idea of like, well, what does she bring to the table besides sex? And that's not quite it, but that is part of it, right? In the sense that what she brings to the table is an accelerant to the fire, right? And so maybe now, instead of the situation where you have your flame and she has her flame, you combine them and it equals 100, it's just your flame. She's no longer trying to produce a flame. Instead, she's acting as an accelerant to your flame. She's giving you all of her energy to make your fire brighter. And by doing that, your flame becomes 300. So when you combine her and you, it equals 300 or 400 instead of 100. So that's the synergistic effect. And that's why the question of what does a woman bring to the table is a wrong question. It's a masculine phrased question from a masculine viewpoint of society and the way that the world works, right? And you see, when you view it from that lens, yeah, it's transactional, right? If you're looking for a non-synergistic type of relationship where you add together the two and that's what you get, then sure, that does work. But if you're looking for a synergistic relationship, really the depth of what you can have with the masculine and the feminine, when you combine two things and they become greater than one, then you have to start looking at the roles. And you have to realize that your role as a man is to create that flame, is to be that flame. You are the head of the house. You are the authority. You are the one who is responsible. And what is she bringing to the table? It's the wrong way to look at it. What she's bringing is the accelerant to that flame. She's giving you the boost. She's giving you the energy. She's giving her emotional energy to you and her sexual energy to you, which makes you stronger, which makes your flame grow brighter because she's building you up as a man. So these are the things to really think about in terms of this, because like I said, I think there's a lot of confusion. And I think this question of what does she bring to the table is a wrong question. Another example I'll give you is that the purpose of the masculine and the feminine is to become one, right? You're missing part of you. You're missing a part of your essence when you are just in your masculine, right? You need the feminine. And sure, we all have a bit of the feminine in us as men, and women have the masculine in them as well. That's the yin and the yang. However, you are missing something that would make you a complete whole. And that's why we have a union of the two. That's why all of these things in nature have this kind of union. That's why you have sex with a woman, and that's why the parts fit together, right? And create something that you couldn't create on your own. If you're just sitting there masturbating by yourself, you're missing something. Are you not? Do you not feel like you're missing something? Of course you do, because you know that the two combined together create a whole, right? And so you can look at it as your body, right? It would be silly for you to say, well, if your left arm was to say to your right arm, hey, what are you bringing to the table? I feel like I contribute more than you do, right? Or your eye was to say to your nose, what are you bringing to the table, nose? It's like your whole body is one. It's silly to ask one part of your body what it's bringing to the table, or to require more of it and to say, hey, you're not pulling enough of your weight as a body part. It's the whole body together that makes one thing, and there is a head to that body. And so as a man, you are the head of this body that you create together between the masculine and the feminine. The masculine is that head. And so the masculine takes full responsibility for that entire body. He doesn't think, oh, this part of the body's not pulling its weight, right? You think of yourself as one thing, one organism, right? And so I think this is, like I said, it is a point of confusion. That's where as I was realizing, a lot of guys were so opposed to what I had to say in this podcast about 50-50, right? And how I don't believe in 50-50 relationships, how I believe that a man should take the financial responsibility and pay for everything, and again, I'll give some caveats here, which is what I mean is that, if you're dating a woman, you should be paying for the dates, you should be paying for the activities, you should be paying for that, but not her car payment and her mortgage and all those things, because you're not just taking care of her until she's fully trusted you to do so, which when you move in with a woman, which you shouldn't be moving in with a woman unless you're planning on getting married, because it's silly to do that, to set yourself up for a failure in the future, right? Because ripping apart a household is not going to be a fun experience. So if you're not going to a permanent type of, if you don't believe enough that you're going to go into a permanent situation, which again, it doesn't necessarily have to be married, but it has to be a permanent situation, then at that point you become the head of the household as the man. So you are the masculine, and now you become financially responsible for that entire household. So now all of the money, you're the one who's in charge of that, who's in control of that. Okay. And she's going to trust you with those things. And, again, you might disagree that a woman needs to necessarily quit her job, but I do believe that is a good thing. It might not seem possible in your situation, and I'm not going to say that has to be the case, but it is preferable. And in that case, where a woman gives up her career and gives up all of these things in order to completely give her life to you and put trust in you, it really becomes irrelevant of the question is, what is she bringing to the table, right? Because that's not what it's about. The other thing to think about in terms of this, right, is that the masculine, you have to do something to be a man, right? Because I think a lot of guys will also say, well, these young girls, they're just attractive and they're beautiful, and they are being valued based on something that they didn't do, just on the genetic qualities that they have, just being female, just being a woman. And so that's really not fair. As a man, I have to do all this stuff. I have to create all this stuff. I don't get any value unless I create that value for myself. And so I don't want to just give this girl my value. She's already getting all this validation, attention. She's gotten all these things. She doesn't understand what it's like to actually have to work and actually have to build something for yourself, right? Not that, no women have ever had to work or anything like that, but you understand what I'm saying. And so the thing to understand about that is that is actually the way of things. That is true. The masculine is a flame. It has to be built. It is not automatic. Okay. Whereas the feminine, right? You hear the phrase, men are made, women are born. It is true. That is just an aspect of the feminine. The feminine, when we talk about being the masculine, we talk about being the masculine or becoming more masculine or leaning into your masculinity, right? When you hear someone talk about femininity, they're talking about letting go or relaxing into the feminine. It means relaxing. Right. So it means you don't have to do anything as a woman, as someone who's feminine, in order to have value, because the feminine is valuable intrinsically. Right. The masculine is not without being forged through the fire. Right. So the masculine takes work in order to become a thing. It is work. The feminine is relaxation. Right. The masculine is analytical and logical thinking. The feminine is freedom and emotion. Right. So, and what do men seek more than anything else is freedom. And what offers freedom is the feminine, right? That is the freedom that they seek. A man seeks release. A woman seeks to be filled, right? A man seeks to empty himself. A woman seeks to be filled, right? So these are the things to understand. And I know that a lot of people don't even really believe in the masculine and the feminine and believe in these things, but there are polarities of energy. And you will see that in any relationship dynamic. And you can deny those things, or you can live at a lower level, which is fine. I mean, because I've heard people say, well, that works for you. And people can have different kinds of relationships, and there's not one universal thing. And I agree that is true, but there is one universal thing if you take into account the masculine and the feminine, and you want to have that full polarity in a relationship. It does require both of those elements to exist. And there is a way to relate to each other that is a natural relation of those two things, right? Which requires you as a masculine man to release some of these ideas, right? To be in a way dependent on the feminine, and she is dependent on you for different things, right? If you're both creating your own things, again, you're both creating your own fires, you don't really need each other. And in that case, if that's what you're looking for as a man, you're probably not going to find a woman that is going to offer you the value that you're able to offer her. You just won't find that because you're looking for the wrong thing, right? But instead, if you are taking the viewpoint of you are the one who is building the fire, who's bringing the fire, and you're looking for the woman that can fuel that fire the best for you, then you're asking the right question, right? Don't ask the question of what is she bringing to the table? Like, what benefits are you getting from her? Instead, ask, how does she change and shape you as a man? How does she fuel your fire and make you a better man? And if you found that, right, that's the thing that's valuable there. So I will say real quick, if you're interested in learning more relationship dynamics, you can go and check out the Better Than Perfect podcast. It's on YouTube. It's also on Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff. And then if you want some one-on-one coaching with me, I do have a few coaching slots left. I think at the time of recording this call, I have 3 slots that are available. So if you would like to jump into that, you can, there's a link down below for Bulldog Mindset coaching, or you can email me, john@bulldogmindset.com. There's a form to fill out a coaching application, and I'd be happy to help you figure out these things, because I think part of it too is like, you know, I feel bad because so many men, they don't understand masculinity from this context. And so you're trying to be the man, you're trying to build yourself and develop yourself, but it's going to hold you back if you don't understand this, if you don't understand what it truly is to be masculine, right? And the true masculine does not worry about fairness. He doesn't worry about, you know, what is she bringing to the table? Because that's not it's a misunderstanding when you think in those terms. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.